You all right? You okay? I know. It's been difficult, but it's over. But we are going to have to talk about it. Just talking to the fans there, Flav.
Good.
Season review. We're going to go through each team. He's so confused.
I wasn't quite sure.
I was just having a word with.
I was not prepared.
Because we've all been through the ringer. We've all been through the ringer.
have.
But it's over. Well, not for you, or for you. Yet.
Well, yet.
But the Premier League season is over.
Oh, it's over for us.
Yeah?
It's over.
Oh, really?
They've got a cup to lift.
Yeah.
We don't.
He knows.
All right. Well, we'll be doing a preview later in the week, so check that out on Ball Street. We're going to go through each team and talk about their season, what went right, what went wrong, and give them a grade, A to F. Okay? Perfectly kicking off alphabetically with Arsenal. We're going to go from Arsenal to Liverpool in this first part, and the second part will be there for all to see very, very soon. Now, we did a predictor at the start of the season.
Oh, no.
We don't get many things right here at Ball Street, do we?
No, we do not, Sam.
we
That's
do-
part of the fun.
Yeah, when
It's
we
an
do.
impossible and pointless thing to do. People like it, but it's impossible.
True. And in the comment section of that, there was a lot of anger and opinion, as there are with these kind of videos. And we were able to get 3 right.
Yeah.
So we got Watford correct, 14th.
You know.
We
Pulled that in the bag.
we got Liverpool right, saying that they would finish 4th, and they did. And we also got Arsenal right in saying that they'd be 6th.
Do you remember the vitriol?
People unsubscribed,
Yeah.
they weren't happy, there was
It
a
was
clear
chaos.
Arsenal bias. Flav, you pushed for that at the time.
Oh, because I knew. I knew the trouble that Arsenal were in. And
Mystic Flav.
You know, one of the things we said is that they're one game from a meltdown, and we've seen it over and over again this season. So, you know, and I think that goes down to Wenger's tenure at Arsenal. She's been there too long. It was a case of them needing to freshen it up. Everyone had become disgruntled and bored and kind of pessimistic about the whole situation. And, you know, they probably had a right to at the end.
So this season will be known for, you know, it being Arsene Wenger's last season. And rightly so. When you look at the away form, 16 points all season long. Great home form. But if you're going to get higher than 6th in this league, you've got to have a bit more than that. Why do you think they were so poor away from home?
Oh, it's so weird as well, because part of Wenger's brilliance when he was in his pomp was the away result. That's what made him so good. I think in the year they went unbeaten. They obviously went
Did really well away, didn't they?
Obviously they went unbeaten away. But also,
Great point.
the other year, you know, they had a wonderful team that won the double just before that, 2002. That team was unbeaten away from home. So he really does know how to get
We did.
that. We did. Well, he does know, because he did it.
But what he knew then was pertinent. What he knows now isn't so. The game's moved on and is left him behind, seemingly. Or it's the fact that I think that Sanchez was a major, major problem for Arsenal this season.
Has this squad gone backwards or forwards, or is it in the same spot? Because when we get to the grade, I think it'll be quite interesting. People said Arsenal had this nightmare season, but we said they were going to finish 6th.
That is a nightmare season for a club like Arsenal. Predicting it right doesn't make it okay.
But it shows what the expectations of that squad were.
No, that's not the expectations of the fans. That's the expectations of us looking at it from a slightly more clear way. As an Arsenal fan, and Flav will agree with me here, I'm sure, as a man who's from North London, Arsenal aren't a club who finished 6th. That's not something that their fans will be happy with. Us calling it correct, weirdly, doesn't make it an acceptable season for Arsenal. Arsenal aren't a club that finished 6th happily.
I mean, if it was an acceptable season, maybe Arsene Wenger would still be there.
I think, but acceptable and expected season are 2 different things. Like, we put them down as 6th. That squad.
Nobody's an Arsenal fan here, though.
But I don't think that should matter, should it?
Well, from an Arsenal
expectations, yes.
From an Arsenal fan's perspective, they've had a horrendous season. But from a logical football fan's perspective, they're about on par with where we thought they were.
Perfect.
So that's ultimately what it is. Yeah. But to answer your question about the squad,
yeah,
they have a better squad now.
You think they have a better squad?
Yeah, I think the new manager has a lot to work with there. I think before we had Sanchez, who was disinterested. They've replaced him with 2 players who have performed brilliantly since they come in. Aubameyang's got double figures and only joined in February. And Mkhitaryan's done more than his fair share coming in as well.
So let's give a grade to Arsenal's season. What would you go for that?
E. Horrendous. I mean, look, they spend so much money on wages. They spend a lot of money in the transfer market. a sixth is not acceptable for that outlay. It's been a bad season for them. I think they would agree. I'm not. This isn't partisanship. I'd say E.
Sam?
I was going to say D, but Flav's convinced me. I think E's. And if you imagine what's happened in Europe as well, first year out of the Champions League, and it's again what's happened out of the Champions League again, knocked out of Europa League, where they had the ability, the perfect game, 1-0 against Atletico Madrid, at home against 10 men, and they didn't turn that into a win. That's another huge. Had they won the Europa League, Arsenal fans would be arguing, the season, blah blah blah, but it's a B or a C. Look, we're back in Europe. Perfect for whoever comes in, whether it's Arteta, but he didn't.
That's true. Yeah, the mission wasn't accomplished. So I think you're right. It's definitely not a good season. I'd go like D-, something like that.
I think it's all a little bit too harsh. They got to the final of the Carling Cup, didn't they? So they've got to one final. They've gone to Wembley, which is always the dream, win silverware. So they've got to one final. They got to a semi-final of the Europa League, which is also very impressive. Mm-hmm. They were dumped out embarrassingly by Forest, weren't they? Is that right? Forest in the third round and finished. I think that's more of a C- than a D or an E.
Okay,
it's kind of like it's almost like they bottled a lot of it, really, isn't it? Bottle jobs by the sound of it.
Okay, next up, Bournemouth, who 4 seasons straight now they've survived in the Premier League, and
it's not just survived.
Yeah, they're mid-table.
Well,
they've done it with
they've
plum.
got to Europe. They haven't done anything else.
That's not survived.
They've survived without any kind of scares.
Survived. Which is an incredible feat.
Did they meet expectations from the start of the season? They spent a lot of money and brought in some really exciting players. Nathan Ake, Jermaine Defoe, Begovic came in, and it felt like it was that season where they were kind of looking to move forward. They finished 10th last season. We predicted that they would finish 10th. They finished 12th.
That is moving forward, though. I know that sounds weird. They finished lower, but that is still moving forward for a club like Bournemouth. Simply establishing yourself and re-establishing yourself as Premier League stalwarts. Like, they want to be an established Premier League club. So every year that they remain in the Premier League convincingly is progress. Whether that's 10th or 12th is neither here nor there.
It's a good stat. Bournemouth picked up a divisional high, 21 points from losing positions. What that says to me is, I think it's part of the kind of growing pains of Bournemouth, that they're moving forward the squad with these players that they brought in. And I think you're right in saying that this season it was again still about being kind of safe and bedding in these players. Nathan Ake is going to be better next season. Begovic is not really going to be any worse. I think Defoe, you've got another season in him, and someone like Lewis Cook, who's now been put in, he's doing better for them as well. So you can see the kind of evolution of that team. And I think it shows that the fact that they're able to come from behind, I think they're kind of figuring out where they stand as a club, but they've got the quality in the squad to come back and score goals.
I mean, there's some clubs that come up that panic buy, and they buy established, slightly older Premier League players because they think, oh Jesus, we just need to try and survive next year. They've done a different sort of business model, which seems to be
QPR model.
Which seems to be. I didn't want to mention QPR, but it was QPR I was talking about. But anyway, back to
Harry Redknapp,
Chris Samba.
really. Yeah.
But they've gone a slightly longer plan, and I think look at Stoke prior to them going down this year. It's obviously a bad time to talk about that, but Stoke under Pulis established themselves as just this middle Premier League team. They would always finish like 9th to 13th, and they were there for a good number of years. They didn't build on that. They tried it with Mark Hughes that year where they started to play with Shaqiri and started to play sexy football. Didn't work out for them. That's probably what Bournemouth fans want to get towards, but I think they'll be happy with how this season has gone.
He's one of those guys that they were able to, when they were having a few wobbles, they were able to stick with him because they know he's good and he's so ingrained in the club. So I think it's a great time for Bournemouth. I think you hope that next season is that next season where they push on even further, because I do think they've got enough quality players. Grades, what are we doing?
I would say a B+.
Yeah, I was going to go for a B as well. I think Bournemouth fans will be happy at how this season goes, but maybe next year they do want that progress to see a little bit further, break into the top 10.
I was expecting a little bit more, and I think that shows from our predictions. So I think I'd give them a C.
Harsh.
I think they've got a good squad.
Harsh. I think it's a B.
More.
I agree. It's
You
a B.
okay? Right. Let's move on to Brighton, and who we said were going to finish dead last.
Obviously this season everyone was writing us off, everyone thought we were going to go down, but obviously we overcome that and we finished 15th for season, and as you know what, I can't believe it, to be honest. You know, this season's been incredible. We've had shock results like beating Manchester United, drawing to Tottenham, massive results like that, and to be fair, every Brighton fan wanted a season like this. We're all like going, you know, enjoying the league. Like, we may get relegated, but it's about enjoying it. But we're actually staying up. Like, it's incredible. Like, a small club like Brighton, yes, I call that club small, but it's true. And, the way we stayed up, the manner we did, and the fact we reached a 40-point mark was something unbelievable. And if I was to grade the season, then it must be an A. Chris Hughton has done an absolutely fantastic job this season, and I couldn't be any more happier.
Here's some names for you, Rory, which I know you're just talking about them non-stop in the office.
Yes.
Pascal Gross, Matty Ryan, Davy Proper, Josie Izquierdo, and Charlotto. All these players, I know you're huge fans of all of them, new boys at Brighton. Every team that goes up, they have to bring in some players. And all of those guys have looked at home in the Premier League. I can't say his name, Izquierdo. He's got some real quality to him. And the back four have been brilliant. To get that mix and get it right is not
It's got to be down to Hughton, isn't it? And his recruitment. I mean, he really is a fantastic manager. I always thought it was really, really strange how Newcastle got rid of him so quickly after he brought them back up.
Yeah, I do regret that.
It's the same sort of model that you're looking at Bournemouth, the manager that they're sticking by that's brought them up, and hopefully for Brighton, they're going to want to turn into that team that's like, they're 2-3 years behind Bournemouth in terms of getting towards the 10th to the 14th spot and just trying to establish yourself as a Premier League club.
Yeah. Let's do marks.
Okay.
Brighton. I'll go first. I think the expectation. Well, we had them down as 20th. I thought they were going to struggle to score goals. Glenn Murray. I mean, it shows you don't need any physical quality whatsoever, and you can still score goals if you've got it up there. He's done brilliant for them. We've said Chris Hughton's done well. I would go A. Yeah, I would give them an A.
I'd give an A.
A's a little bit.
Yeah, I'm going to go B. B plus.
We had
B
them
plus.
bottom of the league.
But that means you're leaving yourself nowhere to go. So if you're giving them an A for this, where would you put them? What would you give them if they won the league?
It's about their ceiling. How can they? What can you possibly realistically achieve?
Ask Claudio Ranieri at Leicester.
Good point.
Yeah.
They'd already stayed up. That was the second season. So let's see.
So
Let's see what happens next year, right? And these things happen.
Look, with the right manager, with investment, there's two massive problems solved. It's just, you give him some money to spend and see what happens, and maybe, they could go far beyond the wildest dreams. But A.
I'd give them a B. Just, you have to allow yourself somewhere to go.
I love this. So particular with your mark.
You can't give someone.
Okay, use grades properly, right?
Yeah, fair enough.
That's what they're for.
Okay. The surprise package of the Premier League season, Rory.
Well, Rory's the surprise package.
Yeah, was Rory. But also, Burnley did quite well.
It's a shit joke.
They did incredibly well.
It wasn't a shit joke, it was a good joke. It becomes a shit joke when you say stuff like that. Just write good joke.
Burnley did very well.
They did, didn't they?
Burnley did very well, and I'm going to have to go back on my original appraisal. In the previous club, I said you can't get an A because you need to leave yourself somewhere to go. That was idiotic, because that would mean that only the champions could get an A, which is obviously not the truth. A.
Yeah, straight on it. A. First time they've had European football since 1967.
Yeah.
I think going back as well, we had them 19th.
Yes.
And that was based on
I did argue against that, but you didn't listen to me.
Did you? All right, I'll have to go back and watch that. I think the big thing was, if you remember, their home form was brilliant last season.
Yeah.
And they've actually, I've got it here, they've got the lowest percentage of their Premier League points won in their home games. Whereas last time, 82% of their points came from home. Yeah. So he's done an unbelievable job.
There's a stat I can't get my head around. So in 38 games, they scored 36 goals. Stoke, who got relegated, scored 35. They finished with a -3 goal difference, and they finished 7th. Arsenal finished above them, scored 74 goals.
Wow.
In the next place above them. How? How have they finished 7th?
That's the defence then, isn't it?
Unbelievable defence, man.
Yeah, and you've got players getting recognition as well.
Like Nick Pope is obviously...
Nick
is he going to go into the World Cup?
Tarkowski's going to be probably going to the World Cup.
Yeah, and remember, they lost Heaton. To injury. Pope's come in. It's like, don't worry about it. I've got this.
Yeah.
They've got, again, an amazing system. It's all about the team at Burnley. But they do have standout individual players that probably won't do as well under another manager.
Can they do it again?
Europa League.
They need to spend more money. I know this is kind of a reoccurring theme. They have the lowest expenditure for wages in the Premier League by some margin. It's something like 67 million.
With that in mind, their season has just been incredible, hasn't it?
Yeah,
it really has.
Overachieving in the most extreme. Yeah. And as you say,
A. Such a small
A.
Cool.
Sam, what are you going for?
It can't be anything else but an A.
It can. A+.
Well.
Right, Chelsea.
Oh, God.
Describe Chelsea's season in one word.
Pitiful.
Ooh. FA Cup final.
Yeah.
League Cup semi-final.
I mean, there's been some highlights along the way, but generally speaking, it's been a really, really bad year. It's probably been one of the least enjoyable seasons that I've ever had following the club.
Because?
It's just been, like, when you think of the other horror show season that we had, which was relatively recently, within that season there were some glorious moments. The Hazard goal against Tottenham is like the one, but there were along the way, you know, John Terry scored a back heel in the last minute against Everton from an offside position in the 96th minute. There were these highlights. This season has just been a trudge. It's been really, really grim, and it's been a slog, and it's been full of heartache along the way. It's been awful.
I'm saying from a non-Chelsea fan perspective, it feels like a bit typical Chelsea in that in the summer, all of a sudden, Abramovich has fallen out with your manager. He's not getting what he wants in the transfer market. There's starting to be like a clash of heads, and then all of a sudden,
been aggy, hasn't it?
The
All
season,
season.
but it's a repeating cycle at Chelsea.
Yeah,
Surely you're used to it by now.
Yeah, there is an element of that. It doesn't mean you don't become bored of it, though. I don't really like doing this because I don't like hanging him out to dry, because I don't think he is the only problem. But one of the best players at the club last year, and one of the best footballers that we currently have at our disposal, is David Luiz. David Luiz doesn't play for Chelsea at the moment because he's fallen out with Antonio Conte. We aren't in a privileged enough position to have players of his quality not playing for the club.
Yeah.
And that's why we finished 5th. That's why we're going to lose the FA Cup final.
Yeah, well,
and that's why he's going to leave the club.
And all managers stick around long enough to destroy their legacy, or they get sacked before they can. It's just a par for the course.
It's very quick, though.
Yeah, very quick. It's faster
Not
than
really, not too quick for us. He's done 2 full seasons. It's impressive.
Chelsea have built their.
Yeah, we've been
built
very
their success
patient
on that model.
Yeah, I wonder
would
if
be
they're starting to
sustainable at other
exhaust
clubs.
that.
Hopefully.
Grade for Chelsea.
If they win the FA Cup, then D.
Oh, mate, if you win the silverware.
If you win the FA Cup, D.
Strict.
You're getting
All right.
It's your grade.
C then.
Your grade. Don't even change your grade.
If they win the FA Cup, C. But if they don't, E. Because he's destroyed everything that he created. League winners to bottle jobs.
Compare Chelsea's season to the expectations they had going into it. You can't go higher than E. You can't. Even if they win the FA Cup.
What?
You can't go higher than E.
He doesn't
He's
believe in
won
the
the
FA
FA
Cup.
Cup.
Doesn't
No.
think it really exists.
Oh, that's stupid.
You
That's
can't.
stupid.
I
can't.
think they were actually 2 games away from being in the Champions League.
So they had such a lead on everybody. They had 15 points over Spurs, and there you go.
Look, it has gone wrong, and it is sour. It seems. I would go, and if they win the FA Cup, I think it's a C.
My grade is currently, if we don't win the FA Cup, I think it's an E. It's been painful.
That's what I said.
That's what I just said. You didn't give us enough. You said a D if we win the FA
that's
Cup. It's crazy.
Right, Crystal Palace.
Owly.
7 games. Good old Roy.
Ledge.
Absolutely.
Disrespect.
Yeah,
Let's just put this on record.
Oh, no.
The level of disrespect for that man is completely out of order.
You're complicit in that.
Am I?
Yeah.
Oh, I've changed my mind.
It's the criticism was fair. That man, like
Don't
him as
do
you
the
want,
story again.
that man more than any other man in the world ruined my life.
I know. But let's concentrate on Crystal Palace and their season. We'll get to Roy Hodgson in a second. But to turn it around...
Yeah.
Phenomenal turnaround.
Looking at the team itself, so our comment on the squad, James Tompkins has had a great season for them. That's someone who I think you're wondering how good is he ever really going to be.
Yeah.
But I think he's a mid-table centre-back, but he's had a great season for them. Zaha is their everything, and you've seen that. I don't think they've won a game without him in the team. I think the problem for them, which it's been for a couple of seasons, is centre forward. Benteke only scored 3 goals this season. Not good enough. But they got out of trouble, won 4 of the last 5, and I think every Crystal Palace fan will be delighted with how it ended up.
Yeah, and so much about football is about form, and to end the season strongly, going into the summer, you're just full of optimism. He's done very well under very difficult circumstances once again.
The important thing to remember as well, he came into a club who had played 6, lost 6, hadn't scored a goal.
7, I think.
Was it 7?
Mm-hmm.
He hadn't scored a goal, and his first game was the champions, who at the time we thought were champions.
Right.
And yeah, you know, he won that game and he never really looked back. I would massively worry about Crystal Palace. I think this summer,
If
is
Zaha
Zaha going to be there next year? I mean, I think you're going to come in with a big money bid again for
It's
him.
going to cost a fortune.
I know he will cost a fortune, especially if he does well at the World Cup. And if he does do well at the World Cup, he's going to be one of the hottest prospects. Everyone's going to want to sign him.
Yeah.
I just worry that they've had a good recovery season. but they're still on the precipice of if they lose 1 or 2 players or something goes wrong, I'm not sure they've got the structure in the squad to cope and do the same thing again. Maybe they would do the same thing again, but you can't just have that every single season, can you?
Yeah. What's your mark for Palace?
Hodgson's Palace, B.
Yeah, how'd De Boer get on?
It's hard. Their season, given how it started, you'd say B. The whole season's got. I mean, it's been a mess, isn't it? B though.
Yeah, I think B's fair, and you give Mr. De Boer a nice little U for an unclassified.
Yeah.
He's not getting a grade.
Didn't get very far. I think they've done great. Yeah, I think B's spot on.
Yeah, B. They finished 11th in the league. It's brilliant.
Okay, moving on to Everton, a team that I think we all thought were going to do something special this season. I think everyone earmarked them with the signings that they'd made to do something great. Ronald Koeman, his stock was high at Everton, and it's been just a minging disaster.
It just shows you that you can't sell 25 goals a season and not replace it.
I would give them an F because certainly the first part of the season was an absolute disaster. We went out of the League Cup pretty early, we went out of the Europa League group stages, we went out of the FA Cup in the 3rd round. Sam Allardyce, yes, steadied the ship and got us to 8th place, but really Everton should finish 7th, no lower than 7th in this league without a problem. And you know what, if we'd had a decent season, we probably could have pushed Arsenal, or should have pushed Arsenal and Chelsea. So poor season for me, and it's an F.
I wouldn't really want Allardyce's money because it is boring football. He is miserable. He needs to cheer up.
He looks miserable.
And enjoy it. But he's never actually had a full season with a team like Everton that's got the money to spend.
Newcastle.
They didn't give him long enough to sort it out.
The thing is, he's a bit of a dick. That's
I know,
his problem.
yeah, that's the problem.
And that's what gets him sacked, or just be a bit nicer, I guess.
Yeah, I don't expect him to be the manager at the start of the season.
He wins the league at Man United.
Yeah, maybe. But I think there's always a problem with managers. Some managers will never get that opportunity, so you just decide that they're this kind of manager. And I don't think he's ever really had that. And I think that's actually what makes him a little bit bitter as well.
Yeah.
Grades.
He got the England job, didn't he?
D.
Yeah, well, then that's again another
D.
D. Okay.
D.
D
Sam,
minus.
that's your cue, isn't it?
D minus.
For what they were hoping for at the start of the season, it's been.
I'll go D plus.
D plus. Okay. Right, Huddersfield. We had them down as 18th, so the last place of the team's going
Not far
down.
off.
No, it wasn't that far
They
off.
weren't far off. They just about did it in the end. 36 points was enough. Were you surprised that they stayed up in the end? After, because I kind of, after that middle period of the season, they really started to struggle. And actually, they've only just about hung on, really.
I mean,
but it's been unbelievable.
They were just on the edge the entire season. It's just they so happened to finish the right side of the fence. Swansea, Southampton, Stoke, all of those teams down there were all extremely similar. But Huddersfield did pull some results out, and they held on to Wagner. And that's a huge, huge thing. And now they can look for next season and say, right, let's try and build on it. Let's try and get some investment in. And, Matt, obviously, he's going to be absolutely buzzing. They managed to stay up.
For them to get 2 points out of those last 3 games, which is what they needed in the end, was brilliant. I think the thing I would worry about if I was a Huddersfield fan is, one, the lack of goals. Failed to score in 21 games, which is obviously not enough. And I just wonder if the adrenaline of that first season, if they can keep it going.
Second season,
summer for them.
yeah, second season syndrome is a problem. He's the reason they stayed up. I think it wasn't the players. I think he just exhibits all the perfect attributes for a manager. He's got that perfect blend of sort of German characteristics alongside his American, his adopted country, and I just think that he nailed it. And for that reason, I would give Huddersfield an A. But from everything you've said there, I'd be very, very worried about the future.
Yeah, me too. What would you give him, Flav?
I would give them an A as well.
I'll give them a B. I wouldn't go as far as an A, but they survived.
So expecting a little more? Could they have done more? Is that what you're saying?
I feel like, I saw Huddersfield against United. I saw what Huddersfield could do on their day if they really did turn up. See, the ability was there, just they couldn't do that across the course of a whole season.
What's your grade, mate?
My grade is a B+. Leicester City, a club that I get a bit confused with, what the expectations of this club are now. Because they nearly got relegated, and they won the league, and they've got a lot of those similar players. We had them down to finish 8th this season. They weren't, they were 9th. They weren't a million miles off that.
Well, I'm going to say it was a season of what-ifs. What if we'd have beaten Man City in the quarter-final of the League Cup? We could have gone on and won that potentially. What if we'd have beaten Chelsea in the quarter-finals of the FA Cup? Again, we could have very easily beaten Chelsea that day, and we could have gone on to a semi-final at Wembley and probably even the final. What if we hadn't have lost or had defeats or draws against some of the bottom clubs at the King Power this season? Teams like Stoke, West Ham, Newcastle, Bournemouth, Crystal Palace all came to the King Power and took multiple points off us. So if we'd have beaten some of those teams, we really could have been lucky at 7th or maybe even 6th in the Premier League. So for me, it's not been a bad season. Top 10 finish in the Premier League. Most Leicester fans, if you're honest, would take that. But what if?
They have some real jewels,
yes.
And that's why you think they should perhaps kick on. Like, I think Riyad Mahrez is one of the most dazzling players in the league. I think Jamie Vardy is quality.
Yeah, he is absolutely
quality.
And Maguire.
I think Harry Maguire is a good player. I think Kasper Schmeichel's a good keeper, and I feel like
Andre Silva in midfield, I quite like him as well.
Yeah, I think they're a good team, and for that reason, I feel like they could have perhaps done a little better, but it didn't work, did it? They had a terrible winter with Shakespeare in charge. Nobody. The winter of discontent, mate. Come on, man. I'm just knocking them up.
Wrong audience here, mate.
Just looking at me baffled, Flav.
Just so confused.
I thought somebody would have picked it up, but no. But for that reason, I give. They are.
What are you giving them?
I'm giving them a C. I expected a little bit more. I think they have the players that could deliver a bit more.
I think they're quite...
Yeah, what's your mark?
I'll give them a B.
Give them a B.
Mid-table. I think they should be happy with that.
I think I would give them a C.
Okay. I think I would give them... I'll give them a B minus. Liverpool. The last one for this video, for the first half of this video. We'll do the second half, and that'll be on the Bull Street channel very soon. Liverpool, I mean, finished 4th, got the job done in the Champions League, regardless of the Champions League final. Unbeaten at home all season. It's been good, isn't it?
It's been brilliant.
Yeah, I think
it's been outrageously...
sort of understating it, really.
It's been outrageously fantastic.
What a Premier League season it's been as a Liverpool fan. We've seen some massive highs, you know, beating Manchester City 4-3 at Anfield. We've seen some lows, again, Manchester City 5-1. We've had an amazing Premier League campaign, but, you know, it's all been tempered, I suppose, by the Champions League stuff. I think some of our performances towards the end of the season weren't quite there. I think we could have challenged much better for second place in the Premier League, but we had that little match of the Champions League to go through. So it's been a great season as a Liverpool fan. Jurgen Klopp's been absolutely incredible. I'd give him an A-, just for the way that he rotated the side early on in the season, and for the way that, you know, with a depleted squad towards the end of the season, he's still able to get us into the Champions League final. You know, ultimately, 4th place was secured. That's progress for me. Last season, we got into the top 4, probably because we didn't have European football, and everybody said, with European football, can you go and repeat that? Well, yes, we can. We did. We've seen Mo Salah, we've seen Roberto Firmino, and we've seen Sadio Mane rip this league apart. With the second highest scorers, we play some of the best football this league has seen, and it's just been fantastic to be a Liverpool fan this season.
It was close. You know, this disaster of a season that Chelsea had, if you'd won that game and they'd lost that game, if you'd taken Huddersfield game
our
seriously,
season and Liverpool's season is incncomparable.
It's totally comparable.
But the point is,
it's 3 points between.
The point is, if you didn't have those couple of horror results, you would have knocked Liverpool out of the Champions League places.
It's a game of fine margins, though.
Yeah, it is indeed, and because they got over the line, you can look at it much more favourably.
Yeah.
But
I think it's the ride has been far better, obviously.
Yeah, but like look at Liverpool prior to signing Van Dijk in January. The defence was leaky, massively leaky. They really have improved defensively from that, and then obviously. Salah, we haven't really talked about Salah.
But you're right. Since the turn of the year, they've stepped on.
Their season, like being a football fan, is like being a junkie, right? You chase the buzz.
Yeah.
You're all about chasing the buzz. That's all you want out of football. How many times have they been buzzing this season?
Too many times.
I've been buzzing once, and it happened in August.
I know what you mean.
When was that? What was it?
Tottenham, Alonso, yeah.
All right, let's grade Liverpool. What do you think?
A.
So look, I mean, if you're giving Houghton an A for getting Brighton into 10th, then you've got to say A for what he's done this season. But I'm going to say B, and the reason why is because it feels like there's a building block for them here, and A suggests there's nowhere else to go. Next season, I think they're going to be the ones that are challenging City for the league.
Yeah, I think they look like the next contenders.
Yeah, I do think you're completely spot on there. I think probably B+. Liverpool really are in a very, very good position. If they do win the Champions League, it's probably an A season. Definitely an A season. 100%.
Oh yeah, without doubt.
Even if they don't win, though, Liverpool fans will be happy at how this season has gone. 100%.
Well, they're clearly ecstatic. Just go on social media over the moon.
No, don't.
I would go initially a B+, but the fact that the way they played, I think that takes them up a level. So A-. I'm going. Liverpool.
Undoubtedly an A. It was an incredible season.
Yeah.
Yeah, so jealous of their season.
Right, so that's the first half of our season review. Subscribe to Ball Street right now if you don't want to miss the second half, which we'll be doing later in the week. Let us know your thoughts and give us your grades on the teams that we've discussed in the comments below. Click that like button. We'll see you soon. Why are you laughing at?
Those who are holding hands.
All right.